Hello, welcome back to MTG Studios. I'm Maria. We're kicking off another semester of tutorials here in the studio, and we're going to start with line. This element of art is so important to all that we do in drawing and painting. We're going to start things off with some tutorials on perspective, drawing three-dimensional objects from the real world on a two-dimensional plane. In today's tutorial, I'll briefly review one-point perspective and the principles there, and then go right into two-point perspective. So let's get started because it's time for art. I want to review our one-point perspective principles and techniques. In one-point perspective, we know we have to have a horizon line. That's going to be that completely horizontal, parallel to the top and bottom of your page line that distinguishes the difference between the sky and the earth. On that horizon line, we will have a vanishing point. The vanishing point is that point on the horizon where all those lines that create the illusion of depth converge and meet. The first thing you want to do is draw either a rectangle or a square for the front face of your building. You want those lines to be completely parallel, vertical and horizontal. So that's why it's best to use your ruler and make sure that your ruler is lined up completely parallel to the sides of your page to create those vertical lines that run perpendicular to the horizon. They create those right angles. Same thing with your horizontal lines. You want them to be completely parallel with the top and bottom of your paper and the horizon. So you can see that although my freehand drawing was close, not quite close enough. Much better with a ruler. So now we need to create those orthogonal lines or receding lines that create the illusion of depth. If we look at an actual box of something, we can look at it as these are all parallel horizontal lines. But when we're looking at it in one-point perspective, our line of vision is seeing just the front face of this box, and we could be seeing the side, the bottom, or the top, or a combination of those things in one-point perspective. Even though in reality, these lines are parallel and horizontal to each other, when creating the illusion of depth on a two-dimensional plane, we need to make those lines converge on the vanishing point. So we take those three corners of our square and connect them with the vanishing point. Then all we have to do is drop the back of that box by creating a perfectly parallel horizontal line for the top back of that box, and then a completely parallel vertical line for the back side of that box. So in one-point perspective, you're going to have a square or rectangle for the front of your box, and then you're going to have these orthogonal lines that recede back to the vanishing point, and a horizontal and a vertical line to create the back of your box. Now our box is solid, it's not see-through, so we don't need to draw an orthogonal from this point back. Now that we've reviewed one-point perspective, we're ready to begin two-point perspective. Again, you're going to have a horizon line. That is basically the horizontal line that separates the sky from the earth or the sky from the ocean. In 2-point perspective, instead of 1 point, we now have 2 points on the horizon line, one way to the left and one way to the right. We want to keep them real far apart. If they're too close together, our perspective looks a little wonky. With 2-point perspective, instead of our line of vision going perpendicular to one face of a box, instead the thing that hits us first is the edge or the corner of that box. And then we would see 2 sides, and these lines would converge on those 2 vanishing points. So the first thing we want to do is drop a vertical somewhere in between our 2 vanishing points. Again, we want to use our ruler to make sure that our line is completely straight and completely parallel to the sides of my page. So I'm going to drop that vertical there like that. And you see again how it's just a little off. So use that ruler. Now I'm going to draw lines, orthogonal lines, from the top and bottom of the vertical I just placed in the middle of my page. And again, draw lightly so that you can erase unwanted orthogonal lines once you've created your box. Now I'm also going to draw lines that go back to my vanishing point on the right of my page. Now here's the tricky part. How do I figure out where the back of my box is? Well, now we're going to determine how wide our box is or how narrow it is, and I'm going to drop a vertical for the left side of my box and the right side of my box. And again, I want to make sure that my lines are completely parallel. All of my verticals and all of my horizontals are going to be completely parallel with the tops and the sides of my page. So now that I've got my right side and my left side, this point here is going to go to the opposite side, and this point here is going to go to the opposite side there. So I line up my left corner of my box with my right vanishing point and draw that orthogonal line. Then I'll line up my right corner of my box with my left vanishing point and draw that orthogonal line. And that creates the back edge of my box. Because my vertical is below my horizon line, I see the top of that box. And because we're using 2-point perspective, I see the right and left side of that box. Now let's pretend that there is a box above the horizon line. Again, drop a vertical above your horizon line, and now draw lines, the orthogonal lines, to your vanishing points. When you start, you're going to both vanishing points from the bottom of the vertical and the top of the vertical. Be as precise as possible, and again, draw as lightly as possible. Now I'm going to drop the back corners of that box. Those are going to be verticals. Keep them completely parallel. You can even make use of your ruler by lining up that edge there with one side of your ruler and draw that line with the other side of your ruler. And now we're going to take this right hand corner and go back to the left vanishing point with that to create that lower back edge of that box. And then we're going to take the left corner and go to the right vanishing point to create that back edge. And again, drawing lightly so that when you are done, you can erase those orthogonal lines easily. These are the lines we no longer need, so we can see exactly how well we've done. And that is 2-point perspective.